There are many criticisms I have in the current manosphere and pickup artistry in general, but I wanted to start this debate with what I think they get right. It's totally appropriate to be a men's rights advocate and put unilateral and bilateral pressure on the current American justice system for more fairness in divorce courts, the dividing of assets between men and women. Also fair to criticize the fact that there's things like men spending more time behind bars than women for the exact same crimes, not to mention the kind of general societal pass that female sex predators get. These criticisms, I think, are necessary, and the dangers and pitfalls of them cannot be overstated. Not to mention, risk should be assessed when entering into a marriage with a woman. And I think that assessing that risk is something that the kind of pickup artist community has done fairly well in getting that out in the ethos. I think this is good, and it's helped society shed some light on some of these key issues. And then the second thing that I'll kind of hand over to him and concede at the beginning of the debate is that many young men, due to a variety of factors, suffer from confidence issues due often to environment. This is fairly well understood at this point. I think it's good that there's men willing to act in some kind of maybe mentor position or in a mentor status, perhaps to help these young men gain confidence so they can enter into the reproductive activities as society desperately needs this due to falling global birth rates. So these are kind of the concessions I wanted to make at the outset. But my criticisms begin in earnest the second those two goals are gone. Every happiness index poll I can find, and almost all of them I've ever seen to date, show that married couples are far happier than single people. Evidence published by John Howell and Sean Grover in the Journal of Happiness Studies finds that marriage makes people happier and that they continue to be more satisfied years into the marriage. The longer you're married, the happier you become. Married people make more money, have much better adjusted children. The children have better nourishment, living standards, better education. They're less likely to do drugs, become alcohol dependent. The list of benefits is truly astronomical. Hookup culture in and of itself is regressive to male responsibility. In fact, I would argue that simping currently truly only exists due to males encouraging promiscuous behavior of online females and doing this type of simping in real life for the purposes of sexual gratification. For some, perhaps it's a fetish. For others, it's dopamine from the attention. Indeed, most of the damage to men in society currently comes from the explosion in single motherhood and the lack of core masculinity that results from a generation of women trying to tell a man what makes them men. Women, of course, are absolutely the worst arbiters of what a real man should do, as most of them can't even decide what fucking restaurant they want to eat at for dinner. Hookup culture drastically increases the chances of random sexual encounters that may lead to pregnancy, even if the hookup guru himself is preaching to do all the right things when it comes to contraception. Abstinence is the only true safeguard against pregnancy and STDs, and it's 100% effective 100% of the time. But it's not fun. As a society teaching men who by natural order are inclined to be self-destructive, they take lots of risks. They care far less about consequences and public shaming. And we're not teaching them to mitigate or restrain those urges in this PUA or pickup artistry community. And that leads to disaster. Only men can truly show men how to do this. And it's an adolescent process that begins as soon as the male mind is forming. Teenage boys make mistakes that we would forgive them for. We are not so inclined to forgive a 25 or 30-year-old man for. We expect men in those age demographics to be responsible caretakers of the society in which they live, not act in adolescent fashion, endlessly pursuing self-gratification. And I'm almost done. Thanks for humoring me. Hookup culture only adds to the bad behavior of women by telling them that what men want is a woman who's available, easy, and has low self-esteem. The truth is, intuitively, men reject those kinds of women from being marriage material, thus actually adding to the effect of women all suck, I don't want to get married. They are acting in the vein in which men will allow. Women have no actual power other than what men deem to give them and can't use force to achieve their aims, but rather guile. In other words, men teach women how to act. So if we don't teach men how to act correctly, how do we expect that women are going to act correctly, and this is the end. They are a reflection of us, and brother, men don't like what they see in the mirror anymore. As we go through this debate, I can both logically and scientifically prove my points about this, and my only real aim is to have Alex maybe start using some of his influence to promote marriage a bit, and settling down a bit more and helping us get society back to some sort of form of moral decency. It's a tall order, but I'm going to try. That's my opening, Alex.
Good luck.
All right, Alex, you got a 5 to 7 minute opening statement as well. I'll go ahead and reset the timer here, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Cool. I'll keep it very brief. So let's start off on a lighthearted note. Andrew mentioned about female sex predators. I want to clarify my position. I'm actually on board with female sex predators if they're hot. But if they're ugly, then that's a no-go. Okay, that's just a little joke to get things started. Okay, so there's a few things I want to clarify on what you said. You're talking about marriage, and I agree. Some people do better when they're married, and some people are not. Marriage is not for everyone. My parents being a prime example. My parents, when they were married, they were miserable. They're both single now, and they're both, well, they're not single. They're separated, and they have their own partners. Neither one of them is married, and they're both like 100 times happier, right? So there's a lot of people who become a lot happier once they're separated, right? And some people do better when they're married, right? So I don't think marriage is the solution for everyone. Some people, like me, I don't think are designed to be married, right? Because I don't think monogamy is something that every guy can do. That's the first thing. Second thing, simping. Simping exists because of men either having low self-esteem or desperation. Meaning a guy's like, fuck, I'm such a piece of shit because no girl's attracted to me, so I better start simping and bribing the girl with money, or because they're so desperate because they haven't gotten laid in years, right? That's basically what they resort to. Either way, it's an act of desperation, and what I do directly fights against that, because if I can get men abundance with women, right, then they're going to stop simping because, like, well, why would I need to spend thousands of dollars on a random Instagram girl when I can have a few girls in my area who, you know, who are interested in me, right? So what I'm doing directly fights against simping, and I have countless testimonials of guys who are like, fuck, dude, I was used to paying for sex. I was used to doing this, and I saw your channel, and now my whole life has changed. So I think I have, you know, plenty of examples to do that. You mentioned abstinence. So you're right in a way that abstinence is the only foolproof way to guarantee that, I guess, you don't get a girl pregnant. Condoms are like 99.9, but they're not 100%. You're right about that. I feel like that's like saying, well, you should not eat food because there's a small risk you can get food poisoning, so let's avoid eating for the sake of not getting food poisoning, right? You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think life comes down to, you know, mitigating risk, but living also within a certain, you know, risk threshold that you're comfortable with. If you avoid all risk in life, then you're going to be a bubble boy who hides in his own apartment, right? You have to be acceptable of taking certain risk. And look, if someone is extremely risk averse, then that's fine. Don't have sex. But I think a lot of guys are like, okay, well, once I mitigate the risk by using safe sex, you know, using condoms, then I think I'm okay fucking, right? And I think that's a pretty reasonable and prudent course of action, which is what I advocate. And that's basically why my channel exists, for those guys. For the, I would say, I think only 1% of guys are going to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to be abstinent because I'm really worried about getting a chick pregnant. I think most guys are going to be like, you know what, I'm going to take reasonable precautions, you know, and maybe if you want to take a further precaution, make sure the girl's on the pill, right? If you want to go even further, make sure it's your girlfriend so you can trust. I mean, there's different levels of precautions you can take. There's different risk management tools you can utilize. But I think most guys are not going to want to be abstinent, because I would argue that being abstinent is miserable, especially as a man. You're going to live your life without engaging in something that's very, very, I think, important to being a man, and that's having a good, healthy sex life.
Perfect. All right. If you two want to start cross-examination, whichever one of you wants to open up first.
Yeah, I'd like to. So, Alex, a lot of the things you say are just totally contradictions, and they don't make any sense. For instance, you said, you know, your parents were married and they were absolutely miserable. I mean, well, that's nice, but they can get married again, right? They don't have to be married to the person that they're miserable with. They could get remarried to a person that they're not miserable with and still enjoy all of those happiness index indicators.
They don't want to, though. They're happy.
Well, but whether they want to or not, it doesn't lead any credence to your argument. You're like, well, marriage isn't for everybody because my parents were miserable. It's like, well, but we have this cool thing called divorce. They get divorced. You can still remarry to a person you're not miserable to. That's not a discounting of marriage. That's just silly.
But why does everyone need to get married?
Well, I already gave you all of the indexes, and it's not that everybody needs to get married. See, even that is kind of a hyper fallacy, right? I'm not saying everybody needs to get married. I'm just saying that on the general, for almost every male, who gets married, the happiness levels drastically increase. And we do need to have stable family units for the purposes of rearing the next generation. If you want to keep on, the tradition of pickup artistry to, the next generation to help people with confidence or whatever. Don't you want them to grow up in the most stable environment possible with the greatest amount of happiness, least amount of disease, least amount of drug addiction? Isn't that the best thing we can do for kids?
Okay, so let me respond to that. So I haven't seen the data, but I'll just grant you and assume that what you're saying is correct. You seem like a fairly genuine person, so I'm assuming you're not misusing data. So let's just assume that you're right, and happiness index, says that if you're married, on average, you're happier. Okay, that's a macro. There's some people for whom marriage is just not right. Some people are not capable of monogamy, me being one of them, right? And for me, hang on, let me finish. Okay. For someone like me and a whole bunch of other guys to commit to a monogamous marriage, and just have to stifle our sexual urges or cheat on our wife is a recipe for disaster. So I think a key part of it is knowing yourself. I never tell people not to get married. If people want to get married, hang on. If people want to get married and they take,
but you must be misspeaking. You must be, because you keep on saying there's some men who can't be monogamous. That's bullshit. What do you mean they can't be monogamous? What do you mean you can't? I can't not fuck a chick. What are you talking about?
Because they are not sexually satisfied having sex with one woman.
Well, that's not a can't statement, though. You're saying there's men who can't be monogamous. Why can't they be monogamous?
Well, that's like forcing a gay guy to have sex with a woman. Like, that's not going to work.
How is it force?
Because
how are you forcing anybody to do anything?
They have urges to have sex with other women. For some men, right, they're more or less capable of monogamy. They can be sexually satisfied with their wife. A lot of men can't. A lot of men need to have sexual variety.
No, they don't need it. What do you mean need? I don't understand. Like, you made this analogy in your opening. You're like, it's like food poisoning with well, you need to eat or you'll die, but you're not going to die from not banging random skanks, Alex. Like, no man's going to die because they can't ejaculate into a vagina.
No, but you will be miserable. Most people will be miserable if you're abstinent. I mean, I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, but it seems if we're looking at the miserable versus happiness index, they're the most happy when they're monogamous and not having sex with tons of skanks.
Right, but no one's saying you have to have sex with tons of skanks. I'm arguing against abstinence, right? You can be non-abstinent with your girlfriend, you can be non-abstinent with your wife, it doesn't matter, right? I'm just arguing, so let's not get those two things confused. I'm talking about why I think abstinence is going to make a lot of men miserable, right? And that's why
and I'm fine diving right into that, but I need you to first recant this statement because it's obviously not true.
What statement?
Every man can be abstinent. If you say there's men who can't be, that's just absurd, isn't it?
Okay, it depends how we define can. If you mean
what's the negative connotation? Are they going to die if they don't fuck a lot of?
No, they're just going to be miserable, and some of them will commit suicide
because they can't have sex with tons of different women.
Dude, you keep going back to tons of different women. Abstinence doesn't have to be you can be non-abstinent with one woman.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's not make a straw man argument. I'm not saying everyone has to have sex with a ton of different women.
Okay.
I do think men need to have sex. Like, are you arguing against that? You're saying that that men are going to be equally happy not having sex?
Yeah, well, that's what the data shows. That if you're in a monogamous relationship, your index for all of those metrics that you would consider good are higher.
Wait, hang on.
How do you argue against that?
We're conflating two different things. Let's focus on abstinence, and then we can talk about monogamy versus non-monogamy. So I'm talking about abstinence right now. So are you saying that a man who's going to be abstinent for most of his adult life is going to be as happy as a man who has a normal, happy sex life? Whether that is having sex with one girl or tons of girls.
Wait. It depends. Yes, they can be. It depends on what they're doing it for. Like, maybe they're entering into a monastic life. Maybe they're the most happy if they're abstinent. However, I still think when I say abstinence, we're talking about saving yourself for marriage, right? Saving yourself for marriage. Now, do I think that men will be much happier doing that? Well, of course. They're not going to have children out of wedlock. They're not going to get STDs. They're not going to have any of these plaguing problems that society has. Why wouldn't they want to save themselves for marriage?
Because
why wouldn't you want to produce a society that was based around the largest quantity of happiness possible for people?
Well, hang on. Let's not get the macro confused with the micro, right? You can argue on a macro level, it makes sense for everyone to get married, but that's different than the micro, right? On a macro level, it makes sense for everyone to, I don't know, volunteer. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go volunteer and you're going to go volunteer.
Well,
right? So
you don't want to make prescriptions based on outliers.
I'm not going to change what makes me happy just to do something that's overall better for society. Like if I don't want to get married, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's better for society if I get married. So let me just completely squash my own free will and just go do something that I don't want to do, right? That goes against like basically innate human free will.
But Alex, it wouldn't be better for society if it wasn't also better for you. You can't have tons of miserable people running around in society and still say that society isn't miserable, right? It is better for you. It is better for the individual to be abstinent until marriage and then enter into a monogamous marriage. The data's all there to show that. You have one study that shows that people who are married on average are happier than people who are not married. That does not prove your point at all. So no. Wait, hang on. You're right. That by itself wouldn't, but we can walk it forward. Do you think that men who get STDs are happier or sadder than men who don't get STDs?
Well, pretty much every single STD besides HIV can be treated within like 2 days. So.
Oh yeah, genital herpes, genital warts. I mean, you're going to get rid of those in 2 days, Alex?
Genital herpes is a glorified skin condition. So no one, if you actually follow the studies on that, it's actually not a big deal.
Do you have genital herpes?
No, I don't have genital herpes.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, the thing is, do you want it? Like, do you want it because it's just a skin condition and no big deal?
It is a skin condition.
Well, so it's no big deal, right? So you wouldn't mind getting it? It's like no problem for you, or what? That's just absurd.
Well, I'm not going to go out of my way to get it, but if I got it, I wouldn't really care. But the point is,
what do you mean you wouldn't care?
No, I wouldn't, because
so you would raw dog a chick who had genital herpes and just like you wouldn't care?
Well, I would be more worried about getting her pregnant. That's a more realistic concern, which can be heavily mitigated through getting a vasectomy. If you're really worried about it, get a vasectomy, or just use condoms. There's common sense solutions to this.
Yeah, but if you get a vasectomy, then the man you are at 19 is not going to be the man that you are at 30. And you realize that reversing a vasectomy is not easy. It's very expensive. And it doesn't work nearly as much as the vasectomy itself does. It's hard to reverse a vasectomy. It's not as nearly as easy as when they snip it. So, and then moving into the
common sense solutions. Science, that's the good thing about science. We've solved a lot of these problems. You can freeze your sperm and you have your sperm just in a small case that your vasectomy can be reversed. Or if you want to take
expensive, Alex.
Okay. I mean, yeah, like I think.
Well, I mean, you want to go through this mass expense so that you can hump random skanks? It's just insane.
So you keep using the word random skanks, and that's a straw man argument, because I'm not saying you have to hump random skanks. You can just have sex with your girlfriend, right? It's up to you who you want to have sex with.
In a monogamous relationship?
I'm not, if you want, but I'm not going to shame men for wanting to do something different than what I want to do sexually, right? That's the thing. Like, I respect your right to be married. That's your choice you made. And if you're happy with it, that's cool. But I don't see the point of shaming men who don't want to make the same choices as you.
Especially I think that there is a point.
All the cases we have of marriages leading to men getting
annihilated
and destroyed.
Alex, there's a huge point here. You just got done telling me live on this broadcast, well, genital herpes is no big deal. It's just a skin. Hang on. It's just a skin condition, right? Yeah. So it's like, imagine the fucking message that sends if there was like a 17 or 19 or even 21, 23-year-old, very limited self-control. They're like, no big deal. We can help these disease-riddled women. And if you get it, the cure 2 days, no big. I mean, you just downplayed the entire thing other than HIV, right? Everything else, you're like,
HIV is very serious. Getting a girl pregnant is very serious. Herpes, not that serious. Everything else can be cured very easily. But I'm not saying you should have sex without protection. I personally wear protection all the time. I think you should, because you can get a girl pregnant, which in my opinion is the most significant risk you face as a man, right? But the solution to that is to wear condoms. It's pretty easy and straightforward.
Condoms aren't effective against things like, they are, but not to a large degree against like genital warts and genital herpes. Those are things that, and by the way, condoms break often. We know this. You've had sex with lots of women. You telling me you never had a condom break? Come on, lie to me, right? No, tell me you never had a condom break.
No, I've had condom breaks.
Right.
Well, that's what the morning after pill is for.
Yeah, but that's the morning after pill is not going to protect your junk from genital warts, Alex.
Okay, if you're that, so this comes into what I was saying earlier. Your how much risk tolerance you're willing to take. So if you are really uncomfortable with taking any kind of risk when it comes to sexual health, and before you start having sex with a girl, this is something that some people do. Go to a clinic with her. You guys both get tested, and then you know that neither one of you has STDs. Like, it just comes down to your risk tolerance. Like, some people, like, look, dude, me, I don't drive at 2 a.m. on New Year's, right? Because I'm not comfortable with the high risk of getting hit by a drunk driver. But I drive pretty much any other time. Now, I realize that every time I get out of my house, I get in my car, I have a theoretical risk that is much more risky than having sex, of dying from a car crash, right?
This is such bullshit because you pretend like
taking that risk. And that's
but the effects aren't just yours. The effects aren't just yours, Alex. So you're like, oh, okay. If you want to have sex with a chick who has genital herpes, no big deal, right? That's the risk. That's the risk you're willing to take. No one is
saying that, dude.
But what about the outlying problem of the fact that sometimes these things lie dormant in people for years and years and years? They don't even know that they have them. They're spreading them through the entire community. Nobody has any idea about it for a long time. Genital warts, genital herpes can lie dormant. HIV can lie dormant for many, many years. You don't even know
all these things can be tested for. All these things can be tested for. Go to a clinic.
They can be tested for, and if you don't have X rates or test fails or any number of different things, you can still be spreading these diseases inside your own local communities. Now it affects everybody. It's not just your risk assessment. What about my risk assessment?
Well, you're not fucking me, dude. So I don't understand why. If you're not comfortable taking risks, then don't have sex with girls. That's your choice.
It's not as simple as that, Alex. There could be all kinds of situations. What if you had, like, let's say, a wife who had an infidelity issue? She brings the disease home to you. The pickup artist is the guy who's banging her, right? No moral man's going to bang a person's wife, right?
The problem is your wife. It's not the pickup artist.
It's your wife, but it becomes your problem when she brings the disease home from the pickup artist. And by the way, what do you think a moral man fucks another man's wife?
I mean, that's a whole different topic. We can get into it.
But no, it's all part of the same topic.
Do I think a moral man? It comes down to your own ethics and morals. I have fucked other dudes' wives. Yeah, so I've done it. Am I like super fucking gun-ho and happy about it? Probably not. Am I still going to do it? Like, is it something I do nowadays? Probably not, right? But yeah, I fucked other dudes' wives.
Well, why wouldn't you do it now?
Because I have a girlfriend now?
Yeah, but if you didn't have a girlfriend, would you still fuck other men's wives?
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
And you think that that's okay and justified?
Dude, I think the fault lies with the wife, not with the guy that's fucking her.
Well, what about temptation?
I do think we should focus on one topic, but we can cover this. She made a decision. I don't want to make it personal. So let's just say your buddy Jeff's wife. She made a decision to go out and cheat. She was going to have sex with anyone anyway, right? I don't feel guilty being the guy she has sex with because I'm not the one that caused her to cheat. The fault is with her. Now, there are things that are like hardcore against my ethics. Like, I would never hook up with any of my friends' girlfriends or my friends' wives.
Why? Who cares? It's their fault.
No, because I have loyalty.
But it's their fault. It's their fault, Alex.
I have loyalty to my friends, but I don't have loyalty to a random guy who I've never met.
Well, why not? I mean, why
would I be loyal to some random person I don't even know?
Because these aren't ethics that you're talking about. They're just preferences. They don't even make any sense. You're like, look, man, it wouldn't be right for me to fuck my friend's wife, but just fucking some guy who I don't even know. Yeah, we could fuck his wife. That's just
because
fine.
I'm loyal to my friends. I'm not loyal to every single person.
Well, right. So again, the problem is not fucking the wife. You would still fuck your friend's wife as long as he wasn't your friend anymore.
Well, then he wouldn't be my friend's wife. Right?
Well, right. So as long as your friend's wife, as long as your friend, so your friend's like didn't pay you back the $10 he owed you, right? Then he's not your friend anymore. His wife's fair game, right? You can fuck his wife all day.
Clearly not, dude. Clearly, I'm not going to fuck my friends' wives if they didn't pay me $10. Look, I'm not telling other guys to go out there and fuck married people's wives, right? Like, that's just something that I'm personally okay with, but I understand how people would not be okay with it. But returning to the initial thing that we were discussing, I think this kind of like shaming language for guys who like want to have a normal, healthy sex life is actually like not doing society any favors. Like, just shaming men and this fear mongering of like, oh, but what about this? What about that? Yes, for every single thing in life, there's a theoretical risk, right? Condoms are not 100%; they're only 99%.
Theoretical risk, huh?
There's a theoretical risk.
It's just theory that STDs are rampant. Right?
Okay, dude.
Let's make sure that just really quick. Let's make sure both people have a chance to respond and make arguments here.
Okay, if you one with a girl you're gonna have sex with, you guys both go together, get tested, combine that with condoms, and you guys are only having sex with each other, the risk is close to zero, right? At that point, you're pretty
monogamy.
At that, yeah, but you don't have to.
That's monogamy, Alex.
Yeah, but you don't have to marry her, dude. You don't have to marry her.
But here's the thing. You know what common law marriage is, right?
Common law marriage only kicks in like 8 states, and it's only if you live together for like 5 years.
Oh, right. But there's a reason for that, right? They're saying it's to encourage monogamy. What all the things that you're saying right now are things that to mitigate the massive risk of what you tell people to do is actually encouraging monogamous relationships.
No, it's not.
What we're saying on our side is we're taking
I don't shame them into doing what I want them to do because of my own values.
That's exactly. Well, wait. Why not? Why wouldn't you shame a person into doing what you wanted them to do? Why would that be problematic or in any way unethical, Alex? Why wouldn't you?
I don't inflict my ethics on my audience.
Hang on. I'll give it back.
My lifestyle choices on my audience.
No, that's bullshit. So you wouldn't shame a man into not giving somebody HIV if they had HIV? Would you shame them?
Would I shame? Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's
okay. Well, then you can shame people into doing all kinds of behaviors.
But I don't have videos on my channel talking about like, oh, if you have HIV, don't have sex. Like, I try not to inflict my ethics and my personal preference on other people. I have clients who want to be 100% monogamous. They want to get a girlfriend and maybe even get married one day. I have clients who want to have a lot of sex, right?
Yeah, and you also have clients who want to fuck everything with 2 knees, right?
Sure, yeah, I have some of those too. That's their choice.
So what we're focusing on is the consistent ethics of this thing, and this is insane to me. You're like,
but it just seems like you're kind of like you decide to get married, and now like you're trying to backwards rationalize it by saying that everyone else has to get married. You made a choice, and it seems like you're happy with it. I'm happy for you, but not everyone has to do what you did. Just like not everyone has to do what I did.
So first of all, we already granted exemptions for lots of people, saying that marriage may not be for every single individual depending on circumstance.
Okay.
Hang on. I can concede that that's true,
okay.
Just not the circumstances in which you say it's okay. That's where the point of contention is. Okay. So let's go over this again, right? I advocate that having promiscuous sex is going to lead to societal STDs, a whole lot of children born out of wedlock, creating terrible results for the children, okay? And also, it's going to bring down the collective happiness of society, and I can scientifically prove that this is true.
Okay.
What you say as a way to mitigate those factors is enter into a monogamous relationship, which is exactly what the Christian right would say.
Okay. So your argument is that no one should have sex until they're married, right?
I think that it's the most preferable outcome for all of society. Yes.
Okay. So that's your argument. No one should have sex until they're married.
Well, and if they do, they should at least be inside of a monogamous relationship.
Well, I think there's a difference between having sex with your girlfriend, between not having sex outside of, I don't know, being in a relationship, and not having sex outside of marriage. Not having sex outside of a relationship, while it's something I would probably disagree with, I think is a much more reasonable argument. But arguing that people have to get married before they have sex is insanity. Wait a second. Hang on. What is marriage to you other than a commitment? Marriage is when you get a wedding. When you have a wedding,
well, it's a commitment, right?
I mean, we all know what marriage is. It's when you are legally married. Like there's
but what it really is a commitment to a single person for the rest of your life, right?
With that legally binding contract with the state.
Let's just say there was no legal binding contract.
But that's not how it is. It is.
Well, no. It is how it is. You can have non-state sanctioned marriages.
There are very, very few people even know how to do that. Most marriages.
Okay, maybe so, but you can. What I'm saying is that what is marriage other than a long-term singular commitment to one woman, so that you can avoid these horrific pitfalls that come with having a promiscuous lifestyle. Well, from your secular worldview, I can't imagine how you could possibly argue that wouldn't be preferable for all young men coming into their own.
First of all, just because you're married doesn't mean you're protected against all the risk. Your wife can still, as you mentioned, go and cheat on you, have sex with another guy.
Well, then she's stepping out of monogamy.
Right,
but theoretically, if they were all staying monogamous, when these issues go bye-bye.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. Most marriages end because of cheating and whatnot, right? So cheating happens all the time. We can't like pretend like it doesn't happen. Like we live in this idealistic world where as soon as you get married, like you have the girl locked down. Husbands cheat, wives cheat, probably wives cheat a little bit more. Okay, that's the first thing, right? The second thing is that
I agree with that, by the way.
Okay, so it's not a foolproof protection. The second issue that you have with marriage is that if you decide to separate as a man, especially if you're a successful man, you decide to separate, you decide that, let's say your girl steps out on you, right? And you decide, okay, well, I want to end the relationship.
Yeah, we already covered that, though.
In courts, and you're going to lose half of your assets.
Yeah,
right?
we already covered that, Alex.
Right. So
I already said. Hang on. I already
legally binding contract with the government.
One more time, Alex. I already said, yes, it's appropriate for the manosphere to point out the fact that marriage inside the courts has been terrifically bad for men. And the one point of credit I give to you guys is that that should have a light shown on it, and there should be more fairness in the courts. And guess what? There is more fairness now in the courts when it comes to divorce than there ever has been. But that shouldn't lead you away from getting married. Why wouldn't you want to train the women in society that what you expect is behavior from women is for them to be faithful, to love their husbands, and to rear your children properly? Expect is behavior from women is for them to be faithful, to love their husbands, and to rear your children properly, instead of training them to be third-rank horse skanks, 2-bit horse skanks that you can just plow whenever you feel like, just cum dumpsters.
Okay, let's look at it from micro perspective. Now, I know that 80% as a man, right? Let's assume as a young man, I know that 80% of divorces are initiated by women, right? I know that over 50% of marriages end in divorce. And I have a business that I'm working on. Why? Especially since you acknowledge all the issues, why would I want to take that risk, right? Why would I take that risk with my money, my life, for the sake of what? For slightly improving
wait, Alex, what risk? You're going to make more money if you're married. That's what the averages show. You're going to make more money if you're married. You're going to be happier if you're married. You're going to have children. Your happiness is going to increase even from that. Your risk is actually, hang on, your risk is staying single and being promiscuous. That's where the most risk comes in. You utilize self-destructive behavior. You're going to drink more. You're going to do all the drugs more. You're going to do everything more that you shouldn't be doing. That's going to be self-destructive. That's what the science shows.
Okay. Do you acknowledge that 50% of marriages end in divorce?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that means you have a 1 in 2 chance.
What about the second marriage, Alex?
What?
What about the second marriage?
Well, it doesn't matter. You're going to get fucked financially.
Oh, no, it matters. It matters.
Hang on. Let me get my point across.
Okay.
There's a 1 in 2 chance that your wife is going to leave you, right, when you get married and take half of your money. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to take a gamble with half of your assets?
Well, let's look at that, because that statistic, it's a little bit flawed on your end, right? So first and foremost, marrying college-educated women is going to drastically increase that chance, right? But you know how you have the most decreased chance of having a wife who divorces you or leaves you is if she's a Christian. If you marry a Christian woman, your chances of divorce drastically decrease. So, the thing is that you can mitigate the risk in marriage just by looking at who's the most likely to be divorced. You have no leg to stand on. You can just go for those types of women, and you're going to end up in more than likely a successful marriage.
What if you're Jewish or Muslim? What are you supposed to do?
Again, you can't look at the 225 million self-identified Christians in the United States, which is the overwhelming majority of society, and point to outliers and they can still, by the way, mitigate risk. Can Muslims not marry Christian women? Can they not do that?
It just rarely happens. Okay, let me semi-grant you your point. Let's assume you are open to being Christian, which is a whole thing in of itself, and you decide to marry this Christian woman. What is the risk? Give me the statistic. What percentage of Christian women? 25%? How much does the risk decline?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question for me?
What is the statistic on Christian women divorcing? Does it go from 50?
I don't know. I would have to pull it up. I don't have the data right.
Let's just assume it cuts the risk in half. I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption. Okay. That still puts you in 25%. That means there's a 1 in 4 chance that you will lose half your money.
What's the risk of contracting an STD per partner?
Well, why can't you just have one girlfriend, just have sex with her, but not marry her?
Well, again, so you're preaching monogamy, which is exactly the message of the Christian right is monogamy.
I'm just saying, if you're really worried about getting an STD, if that's your number one concern, then just
no. It's not my number one concern. Well, okay, that's an ultimate straw man. It's just one of many concerns, and every time you try to make an argument for why promiscuity is good, you always just go back to be monogamous. See, that's every single time.
See, you see, this is where you're getting confused. I'm not arguing promiscuity is good. I think it's morally neutral. It's like arguing that pasta is good. Right?
Well, whether it's morally neutral or not, let's just assume for a second it's morally neutral. The outcome is better.
No, I don't think so. I think.
Well, then how are you going to argue with science?
Okay. Let's take a look at this. Condoms are 99% effective, right? Well, something like that. So if
they're used correctly.
Okay. You can just fucking use them correct. So
okay. You just use them correctly. Mister has had them burst on him. I guess you always use them correctly, right?
I do use them correctly.
Unless they break, then you're
dude. I'm kind of an outlier in this because I've had sex with like hundreds and hundreds of girls. Most guys are not like me. Most guys are not having sex with like countless girls.
Okay? But even if you had sex with one girl hundreds and hundreds of times and used condoms, you're still going to have one break, Alex.
Okay, you can have one break. So there is a one. So let's say you have sex with her 100 times. So every time it's a 1% chance. Okay, so you might get one break. I think that's probably safer, especially if this girl's on birth control. And if she does break in, you can have her take the morning after pill.
Birth control is not 100% effective either.
The morning after pill is pretty effective. I think but
we're not just talking about terminating a pregnancy. The morning after pill is not effective to getting rid of the STD you got the night before.
Okay, we're talking about STDs or pregnancies right now.
We're both. They're all intertwined.
Okay, well,
you can't be like, well, let's just look at STDs and then you bring up the morning after pill. What does that have to do with STDs?
Okay, let me explain to you how you can do this, right? Okay. If you get married to this mythical Christian woman, right, you have a 1 in 4 chance of.
Whoa! What do you mean mythical?
Well, because I think a lot of the women that you think are good Christian women are actually massive sluts who just pretend like they're Christian.
Okay, but do you think that women who self-identify as being Christian women are more likely to be sluts than tatted up sluts who say I'm a slut?
Probably not. Probably not. I just don't.
Probably not.
I just don't think your community is as pure as you think it is. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't say it. Whoa! Where did I ever assert that the Christian community is pure?
Right. You didn't say it. I'm just pointing that out. I just want to point it out to you that your community is not nearly as pure as you think it is. That's my
wait. I never asserted it was pure.
Okay.
All I'm giving you is scientific data. That's it. The scientific data says that if you're a Christian in a Christian couple in a monogamous marriage, your chance of divorce drastically decrease, Alex. That's it.
Okay. So let's say that there's a 1 in 4 chance that your whatever Christian wife leaves you and takes half of your assets, right? If you have you and your girl get tested before having sex, right, and you find out you both don't have STDs, you combine that with condoms, and if the condom breaks, you use a morning after pill, your odds of getting her pregnant and of getting STDs are insanely low. I would much rather take that.
Whoa. That's not true. I think
I'd much rather take that chance than risk losing half of my assets.
Whoa, wait, back up, because I don't believe you. What do you mean the chances of your condom breaking, and then her getting the morning after pill are going to drastically reduce the chances of you getting an STD? That doesn't even make sense on its face, Alex.
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about STDs and pregnancy. So you guys are both going to get STD tested before you start having sex. Right. In addition to that, you're also going to use condoms. In addition to that, if the condom breaks, she's going to take the morning after pill. That prevents you against STDs and pregnancy.
Do you think that the person who's going to get an STD test with a woman and then is going to sleep with her at using condoms and making sure that they're having safe sex is a person who's invested in that relationship and is likely not entering into a one-night stand scenario, but entering into something that's more akin to monogamy?
Maybe not, but they don't have to get married and risk.
I mean, what do you think? Just like your logic tells you, do you think that a woman's going to go through all of that because she doesn't want a monogamous relationship with you?
I think generally you would be correct, but I think a lot of there are some women who are also like really. I've had women who are like really paranoid about the STD thing, so they asked to see like recent test results.
Yeah,
so
they're outliers, though, Alex. What I'm saying to you is that, like, okay, fine, we can grant it for outliers, but all of these roads are still leading towards monogamy.
Right, but
they're all still leading towards monogamy.
But why do you need to get married and risk half of your assets?
Well, it's not that you're risking half of your. What if you marry a chick who's 10 times richer than you? Are you risking half of your assets?
Outliers, bro. Now you're talking about outliers. That never happens. Never happens.
Well, wait. You asked me specifically. You're like, what about the risk of getting married? Right? The risk of getting married is far outweighed for all the pros that come with marriage, and this is scientifically proven. But not only that, not only are there tons and tons of pros, but the courts are far more fair now than they have been in years past. When you're dividing up assets, it's far easier to do now than it's ever been. And by the way, you're also leaving out this great word, prenuptial agreement. Remember that word? Most people who get married, they don't start with shit. They don't have anything. You can get a prenuptial agreement going into a marriage. They are enforceable. Almost all of them are always enforced. So why can't you get a prenup going into the marriage? You think that men are just too stupid to do that, or?
Some men, yeah. Well, I think a lot of men are don't get prenups. Yeah, I agree with you that if you are going to get married, you 100% should get a prenup. But just like if you're going to have sex, you should wear a condom properly, right? But if we're acknowledging the fact that people don't always wear condoms properly, then I think we can acknowledge the fact that also most guys decide not to get prenup for whatever reason, right? It's nice.
Well, what do you mean, whatever reason?
Like they're scared to ask the girl. I don't know why they don't do it.
Like the girl probably wants to have some sense of security and wants to make sure that inside the prenup, there's something in there like, if you get caught with your pants around your ankles getting a blowjob from the neighbor, I get everything, and he doesn't want to agree to it.
Why, as a man, would you want to agree to that anyway?
Well, because you're making a commitment that's outside of you to another human being, and you also have the other thing, Alex, which is children. And remember that we need those in society, or we're all going to fucking die out. Don't you think we need those? And don't you want them raised in the best society possible?
So I will partially concede on one thing. I think that if you are going to have children, then getting married is probably the way to go. If that's true, Alex, then don't you think that we need to have children in order for society to maintain itself? We have to. Our birth rate's falling drastically. We're not even at replacement levels. So if that's true, and society has to replace itself, shouldn't you push people towards marriage, knowing that we can replace society then with other human beings, and they're going to get the best outcome? Can I make a political analogy referencing COVID?
Cool. Don't reference lockdowns.
Okay, referencing lockdowns. Okay, so that's like saying that's similar to making the argument, well, we have this virus that's going around and killing people, so we should all do our part and stay home, right? You're using the macro to argue for the micro. It's the same thing here. Yes, you're partially right that hang on. You're partially right that we need to that it will be beneficial for American society if people are having kids, right? But that doesn't mean I'm going to do something I don't want to do, which is have kids, just so I can slightly bump up the macro statistic. Like, I'm not going to do something that I don't want to do, like stay home or like fucking have kids if I don't want to, right? Just because it will slightly, very insignificantly.
Nobody says that you have to. What I'm asking instead is that if you do indeed believe that the best outcomes for children are going to be from a married home, which you've conceded you do, then shouldn't you press your platform to have men push more towards that rather than have them push towards having massively promiscuous relationships? Because you and I both know that the preference between 18 and 25 can drastically change by the time you're in your late 30s and 40s.
Sure.
You don't want to wreck your whole fucking life and not have the opportunity to go on and bear children, have your name go on, things like this, by contracting STDs or having out of wedlock kids, things like this. It shows very poor restraint in men. And that seems to me like what you're pushing is poor restraint. Have poor restraint and no punishment for it. But there is a punishment for it. There's
Okay,
a societal punishment for that.
Let me respond to that. I agree with you that what you desire can change when you're in your 20s to 30s, right? I don't press. I think this is the confusion. You think I'm pressing like my audience or pushing the idea that they
Alex, you had a fucking dude in a ball gag and a fucking you had a simp in a ball gag on your show last night.
Can I finish my point, please?
Give Alex just a second.
All right, I'm sorry.
Okay, let me finish my point. So I'll quickly respond to the ball and gag thing. Okay, dude, that was pure fucking entertainment, all right? I didn't bring that guy on to like give wisdom, okay? That guy wanted to bait me, and it was really funny. So that was pure entertainment. So let's not make it seem like that's what my channel is about. Okay, so the initial point that I was going to make is that I think the confusion that exists is that like I'm pushing an agenda on my audience. I think you do that, which is fine. I'm not faulting you for it. I don't do that. I don't push my members to have lots of casual sex. I don't push them to get married. I don't push them to get a girlfriend. I say, listen, I'm going to give you guys the tools to have the kind of sex and dating life that you want, and it's up to you to decide what you want to do with that. Now, some men decide to have a lot of casual sex. Some men decide to get a girlfriend. Some men even decide to get married, right? That's okay. I'm okay with people making their own decisions, but the same decision is not going to be right for everyone. Some people do much better, staying single. Some people do better getting married, right? You're pointing out this macro statistic that on average, suggests that people who are married are happier. That could be due to a whole bunch of other things. Is that correlation or causation? I would argue it's probably correlation because if you're married,
every statistic's a correlation.
Because if you're married, you probably have kids, and kids make people on average happier.
Yeah, but everything's a correlation.
Hang on.
Alex.
Can I finish the statement without being interrupted? Another thing is that maybe when you're married, you have a more stable like financial situation, right? Because the kind of person that gets married is probably more financially responsible. There could be any number of correlation things. So I don't know if this is a causation or correlation. I would argue it's a correlation. But either way, right? I don't think marriage is the right choice for everyone. I think some people it's the wrong decision, and pushing those people to get married is like pushing a gay guy to be straight. We all know how that's going to end.
It's going to end well, and we can dive into the statistics on that too.
Wait, on the gay guy?
Yeah, on the gay guy, which is again just sexual preference, and it can be changed. And there have been a multitude of people.
You think that's a good idea for gay guys to pretend to be straight and marry girls?
I don't think that there's a pretension. The pretension is from you saying that they can't help sexual desire. That's foolish and stupid on its face.
Well, when you wake up in the morning, do you think, am I going to have sex with my wife, or am I going to have sex with a man?
Do you think that that's what gay guys wake up in the morning doing?
No, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, then your point is flawed and makes no sense. So maybe you can restate your point in a way that actually makes sense. If straight men aren't waking up thinking that, why would I assume gay men are waking up thinking that? What are you talking about?
That's the point I'm trying to make. You're proving.
Yeah, but it would work in reverse. So they would wake up thinking the same thing, just in reverse, but they're not.
I'm trying. Hang on. Let me explain this. I'm trying to explain. Maybe I didn't word it perfectly. I'm trying to explain that for straight people, we don't choose to be straight. It's just what we are. It's the same thing for gay people.
How do you know we don't choose to be straight, Alex?
Because I don't choose to be straight.
How do you know that?
Because I've never once thought about having sex with a guy.
But you have all kinds of environmental factors that could produce that outcome that you're not even aware of.
Okay, so are you arguing that being gay is a choice?
Of course.
This blows my mind. But then
why would it blow your mind? Why don't you? How about this? Before we even go any further on that, I'll just blow it out of the water right now. Alex, you will be absolutely unable to produce, and I'll give you as much time as you need to Google, any study anywhere that shows that being a homosexual is genetic and that you have to be a homosexual if you have some preference towards sex with males.
Okay.
You won't find it. There is no genetic correlation. There never has been. There is no gay gene. It's just made up.
Okay. We don't need a study to point out the obvious.
Wait. It's not so obvious because I don't agree with you.
Okay. So for you, being straight is a choice?
I think that you can persistently create environmental factors to the extent that you can break a person's brain where they would switch sexual preferences. Yes.
But for you, is it a choice to be straight?
Well, I don't even understand what that means. So if you were to ask me, if you're asking me right now in your current state, right, could you choose to have sex with a man? Even then you could choose it, whether you could do it or not. I have no idea. I don't think any straight man could do it. But what my rebuttal to this is that environmental factors and environmental pressures, but let's just say you were tortured or something like this, as was explored in the movie Clockwork Orange, where they took a violent person and they absolutely were able to use the environment in order to get rid of all of his predisposition towards violence, right? People thought it couldn't be done. And the exploratory to that is that environmental factors have a huge play in this. And you can note this by noting how much the LGBTQ population has increased over the last 20 years as the environment has become more friendly to it. Of course, the environmental factors are huge, Alex.
Okay. Let me kind of break this down a little bit more. So you chose to smoke a cigarette. You chose to wear the shirt you're wearing. You chose the microphone you're using. You did not choose to be a man. You did not choose your hair color, right? Now that
I might have chosen my hair color.
But unless you got your hair colored or dyed, you didn't.
Right. So I might have chosen my hair color.
Right, but come on,
okay. Just to grant the argument, yes, I could not have chosen to have been born a male. You're correct.
Okay. So is your sexuality like your shirt, or is it like the fact that you were born male for you?
That doesn't follow. I'm not trying to dodge the question. I just wonder if you can make it coherent so that I can answer it.
What part is confusing?
Well, so you say, for instance, you presuppose and load the question. You're like, what you're getting at is, can you choose your sexuality, right? Uh-huh. And what I'm telling you is, I think that you can based on environmental factors, yes. And I think that this has been proven time and time again, which is why we have no gay gene, but we have plenty of LGBTQ people, even though LGBTQ people don't breed, Alex. So it's not genetically hereditary. So it has to be a massive environmental factor that's included with the LGBTQ lifestyle. So I don't know what else to tell you about
Could you choose to change your sexuality and make yourself attracted to men?
I don't know that again, I don't think that that's coherent. I think the answer for me is no. I don't think that could be chosen, but
right. There we go.
I think that if there was sufficient environmental factors like fucking electric shock therapy and different things like this in order to push the brain or push the environment that way, it's possible with everybody.
Okay, let's take extreme torture aside. Under normal life circumstances, you're saying you don't think you could choose to be gay, correct?
That's correct. But I'm a 38-year-old male, okay, who was raised without those environmental pressures.
You're not an anomaly. Every single straight guy cannot choose to be gay.
No, you're wrong, Alex, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
So you think
when does the environmental pressure start? When you're an adult, Alex?
I don't think to answer your question, I don't think there's, aside from maybe some extreme torture that will like completely.
I don't think
there's environmental factors.
I can prove it, bro. I can prove it to you. Ready? I can prove it to you. Would you not agree with me that there are these things called transsexuals? And these are people who act as though they're homosexual or in part of the LGBTQ community, but they really aren't. They're actually really just straight people who are kind of LARPing.
I don't know much about trans people, honestly, dude. So
no, not trans, trend sexuals, not transsexuals. Trend sexuals, meaning it's become trendy to act as though you're gay.
No, not where I live.
It has. Well, I mean, how do you account for the drastic increase over the last 20 years in LGBTQ people, Alex, even though their parents can't breed? Can you explain that to me?
I can explain that very simply.
Without environmental factors, go ahead.
Let me explain that, because there used to be a massive social stigma against being gay. So all the people were hiding in the closet. Now they're not hiding in the closet. So I don't think we have there's been an increase in gay people. I just think there's been an increase.
Well, you have a problem with
people
that
coming out.
You have a huge problem with that argument, Alex, which is that it doesn't prove out to be one-to-one. As social stigma has dropped and we have polling data on this, guess what we find? It is true that there's an increase, but it never could account for something akin to 60% of Zoomers identifying as being LGBTQ.
60% of Zoomers are not gay.
Right, that's my point, Alex.
Well, I don't understand your point.
Well, it's not 60%, but I mean, it's a really high percentage of Zoomers who claim to be part of the LGBTQ community or something like this. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. It wasn't 60, 70% in some cases by some polls who identify that way. You don't actually believe that they're gay, right? There must be a trend there.
I think I will partially concede. I think there might be, with social justice warriors, which is becoming more common, I think they might identify with the community for the sake of like kindred spirit. I don't think that actually means they're acting gay.
And do you think that they could be pressured as wanting to be inside of that community into sex acts, Alex, because of the environmental factors of wanting to keep up the trend and being included in these groups?
I don't think any straight guy's going to have sex with a dude just to fit in.
You don't, huh?
No.
Okay. So what about bisexuals, Alex?
What about them?
Well, so they can have sex with men and women, right?
Yep.
Okay. So why is it that that you would think that a man who was under these extreme environmental pressures in order to be included in the in-group, men who will do all kinds of crazy ass shit, they'll go streaking down a football field. They'll do all kinds of insane stuff in order to be included in the in-group. Why do you think they couldn't be socially pressured into sexual activity with homosexuals, Alex? I'm really confused by this point.
Because it's an extremely big ask. I think to have a straight guy do something that disgusts them. I'm assuming for you, the idea of having sex with a man is disgusting, right?
Regardless of if it is, I need you to answer to my point.
I'm about to. I'm making a point. So I think that you're not going to get someone to do something they find disgusting for the sake of fitting in.
Are you fucking crazy? People eat bugs online.
Yeah, dude, that's
and they puke everywhere, and then they're paid and they eat the puke. What do you mean they won't do something disgusting? Wait, no, stop. You have got to retract that statement that you don't think people will do disgusting things in order to feel like they fit in with the in-group. The examples of this are endless, Alex.
Okay. I will rephrase that. I think the vast majority of straight guys are not going to have gay sex for the sake of fitting in.
Well, we're not saying that they will. It doesn't need to be the vast majority. All we need to do is point out that, yes, environmental factors are a cause for homosexual behavior. And you basically just conceded that they are, because everything that you move towards is an environmental factor and social pressuring for the in-group. And when we look at the things that you bring up, like these are common arguments, by the way, right? Don't you think it's disgusting? So you would never do it if it's disgusting. Well, that's absurd. People do disgusting things all the time in order to fit in with different groups, or because of peer pressure, or for any number of different reasons. That argument just falls flat, Alex.
No, dude, I think there's a big difference between eating something that's a little gross and getting fucked in the ass. I don't think
I didn't say that there's no difference. What I'm saying, though, is that I can see where, environmental factors can pressure people into doing all types of horrific, disgusting acts they wouldn't normally do. You say that that's disgusting, right? I get it. I think it's disgusting too. But there are men who have been paid money to drink Epicac, vomit up what they just ate, and then lick it up off of the ground, and they do that for money. Okay? That's really fucking disgusting. Okay? But, and sometimes they're just socially pressured into doing disgusting things. They don't even care, you know what I mean? Because they're 16 and they took it on a dare. Like, you can't, I don't even know how you could possibly make the argument. Sorry.
Before you respond, Alex, we have about 12 minutes left on the clock. When was it exactly that you had to go?
10:30. So we got 40 minutes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
By the way, real quick, I don't mean to cut in, Alex. I just want to tell everybody, get your ass over, subscribe to Alex. You'll find him at Playing with Fire. He's been a good sport on the Crucible. He's come on for a couple of debates now. And also make sure you get over to Sense Channel. He always is a good sport about coming on and moderating, and he yells at me as consistently as anybody. So that's always based, right? Anyways.
Yeah, no, for sure. You guys definitely have good moderation. So for sure. And I appreciate the shout out. Okay. So yeah. So I think again, I'm going to restate my point. I think the vast majority of straight men are not going to have gay sex for the sake of social pressure. Could you maybe find one exception of a guy who was so weak-willed and who was so insecure that he engaged in one gay act because he was ultra pressured into it? Yeah, potentially. But I think that's an extreme exception to the rule. I think the vast majority of straight guys are not going to do that, which goes back to the point I was saying earlier about gay being a choice, or whether it's like, so you're arguing that, that it's like something, it's a choice that you make?
Stop, back up. Because you've just conceded your entire argument, which is that environmental pressures must affect this outcome as to whether a person's sexual preference is oriented heterosexual or homosexual, and you need to concede that that has got to be true by your own logic, Alex.
When did I concede that, or when did I?
Because you just got done telling me that you can envision environmental pressures turning a person homosexual, or making them engage in homosexual acts of their own free volition.
Yeah, did you hear what the other part I said? I said once in a blue moon there could be this one-off exception.
Well, then you have to concede that there are environmental pressures that you think would allow a person who's a heterosexual to engage in homosexual behavior, Alex.
Okay, I will concede this, that there are environmental factors that could once in a blue moon take a really weak-willed person, which is
like
not
a child.
I don't fucking know, dude. But anyway, could take a weak-willed person and make them engage in behavior that is not natural to them. However, I think the vast majority of straight guys are not going to engage in gay behavior because of environmental pressure. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree that the majority of straight adults would never do that. However, this brings us to the most critical factor, which is when your mind is developing, when you're a small child, right? Would you say that the environmental factors leaning you towards LGBTQ, such as maybe that being present in your cartoon shows or any number of different environmental pressures in school with acceptance and things like this, might have a overwhelming result on a child's psyche, as a child is not equipped to make those types of decisions, are they?
I don't really think it's going to play nearly as much of a role as you think it is. I think that most people are either born gay or born straight.
Give me the proof, bro.
Okay, give me the proof of the opposite.
I already did. I already told you that there's no genetic factor whatsoever anybody's ever found, and so what we're left with is
a null is not proof.
Well, wait. We're left with environment. We know that your behavior is at least 50% environment and 50% genetic, right?
But you
can concede that, right? That
but
human behavior.
You can that the vast majority of straight guys are not going to engage in gay behavior due to environmental pressure, right?
Of adults, but when you said the men that you thought would be incredibly weak-willed, right? Kind of mush-brained men. I agree. But a child is weak-willed. The child is mush-brained. So if they're indoctrinated from a young age, why would you think that they wouldn't grow up thinking that that is what they're supposed to do? These are environmental pressures and factors that lean hard, right? They lean hard, and that could influence your sexuality.
No, because
in fact, I can prove this because stigma, if you want to reduce stigma against homosexuality, how would you do it? The same exact way, right? You would use environmental pressures to reduce stigma so that people could come out as being gay. That's how you would do it. I'm saying environmental pressures would also affect your sexual behavior.
Yeah, I think you're born gay or you're born straight. I conceded the fact
proof.
Dude, just because they haven't identified the gay gene doesn't mean that's not the case.
Well, I mean, they sure have been looking for a long time, Alex. You think they're ever gonna?
Dude, there's a whole bunch of things that science hasn't been able to find yet, right? That they find every year. So just because they haven't found the gay gene doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right?
Even okay, but right now we can agree it does not, right? So using our scientific brains,
we disagree.
Using our scientific brains, we have to go with what we got. And since we don't got a gay gene, what do we got? What do we got to explain a non-hereditary behavior, Alex? What? Give me one thing we have to explain a non-hereditary, non-genetic behavior other than environment. I'm all ears.
But you just concede the fact that most straight guys would not engage in gay acts.
That has nothing to do with my argument. It won't even affect it one iota. But
okay.
So anytime you want to explain to me, anytime, Alex, you want to explain to me a non-genetic, non-hereditary factor for why a person is homosexual other than environment, I can't wait to hear it.
Okay, dude, I'm telling you that I think it is genetic. I just don't think they found the gene yet. That's what I'm getting.
Well, it's genetic, but there's no evidence of it being genetic, is what you're saying.
Yes, just because they haven't found the gene yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but we do know that that environmental factors have to play a huge role in a person's sexuality, including the environmental factor of just pornography, which rewires the brain, right?
I really don't think environmental factors play nearly as much as you think they do.
I think that they play. I think that you're downplaying environmental factors significantly. For instance, if you had no shelter, okay, and a rainstorm was coming in, would you build the shelter or fuck your girlfriend?
If there was a rainstorm that was coming in, I would probably go inside my luxury penthouse.
No. If you had no shelter and a rainstorm was coming in, would you build the shelter or fuck your girlfriend?
Build the shelter and fuck my girlfriend.
Okay, build your shelter and then fuck your girlfriend. So that's environmental factors affecting how you would display your sexuality. Right there. Easy, simple way to explain.
That's such a false analogy.
No, no.
If there was a rainstorm coming,
it's not an analogy. It's a hypothetical.
Dude,
first of all, there's no analogy. I didn't make anything analogous. I asked what you would do within a hypothetical.
No, dude, all I'm doing is I'm delaying a normal sex act for me. I'm not doing something that goes against my nature for the act.
I'm not saying you are.
Because of environmental factors.
All I'm trying to do is demonstrate for you how environment affects behavior. Right. In a very simplistic way, just to get you on the train of thought to understand when you say, I don't think environment affects behavior nearly as much as you do. I think it affects it far more than you could ever imagine. And especially the things that you grew up watching on the television, listening to on the radio, and the various things that you were exposed to via different media formed the very person you are today. They were critical. Those environmental factors were critical into the person you are today. So I don't know how you could possibly downplay that while at the same time saying there's nothing genetically I can point to.
Well, I'm not a fucking gay researcher, but let's go back to what you were saying earlier. You said that you believe most adults will not engage in homosexual behavior if they're straight, right? Due to irregardless of the social pressure, correct?
Well, irregardless isn't a word, but regardless of social pressure, yes.
Okay, because it's not natural for them, right?
No, that would be a naturalistic fallacy. I think that the reason that they wouldn't do it is their innate preference, which essentially has been ingrained in them over X amount of time. And that if you could rewind the clock and you could sufficiently produce environmental factors to a mind that's not formed or something like this, that preference may very well change. I don't know. We haven't exactly mangled that in studies, but it does logically follow. Otherwise, the behavior can't be well explained.
Okay, so they have innate preferences at this point. So why do you think that if the reverse isn't true, that you can take a gay guy whose already innate preferences are formed and make him straight?
Because
take a straight guy and make him gay.
I can tell you the difference. Don't you agree with me, or wouldn't you agree with me, that let's say you had a straight male who wanted to become gay for whatever reason? They wanted to. That was their choice. They're like, it's not my preference. I don't like having the heterosexual sex or the homosexual sex, but I just want to be gay. If they had the driving force to do that thing, don't you think that they would be far more likely to achieve it and somehow gain some comfort from it or something with it than if it was forced upon them? When you're talking about a homosexual who moves over to being a heterosexual, they're using innate choice. They're saying, I no longer want this lifestyle anymore. So, of course, their chances significantly increase, Alex.
No, you can't change your sexual preferences, especially now as an adult.
Of course you can. You can change your sexual preference right now. You can never have sex again, right, Alex?
That's not changing my sexual preference.
Yes, that would be changing your sexual preference.
No. That's just changing my actions. My sexual preference is still a woman.
If you were gay and you never had sex with a man, how would anybody know you were gay, Alex?
Okay, but you're okay. Fine. No one is going to know you're gay, but you're going to be fucking miserable fucking your wife.
Well, I mean, you don't know any of these things as being factual. What I'm telling you is that you are changing. Just by you not having sex ever again, you're changing your sexual preferences.
No, you're not. You're just changing your actions.
No, well, that is your sexual preference.
I like pizza. I don't eat pizza because it's not healthy.
Okay, hang on, Alex. Let me.
Hang on. Can I get a point across, please? That doesn't mean I change my preference.
I wish you would.
For food. That doesn't mean I change my preference for food. So, just following the same logic. Do you think that, for example, if we take you and we say, Andrew, you have to be gay now. You can never fuck your wife again. You have to fuck dudes. Do you think you can learn to like it after a period of time?
No, I don't. But again, this has nothing to do with my overarching point of a person makes a choice to change behavior. They're going to be far more likely to engage in that behavior based on the choice. So, for instance, Alex, there's men who have engaged in anal sex with women and men who don't, right?
Uh-huh.
Would you say that if you refuse to engage in anal sex with a woman, you decide one day you no longer want to do it, that you've changed your sexual preferences?
If you decide that it no longer turns you on, yeah, I just don't think.
Okay, yeah, so you can change your sexual preferences.
I don't think
do it all the time. Hang on, tens of thousands of people do it all the time, Alex.
No, dude, those guys that decide because their girlfriend doesn't want to have anal, that doesn't remove their sexual preferences for anal.
No. I didn't say that their girlfriend decided. Who did I say decided?
They
decided. So
okay.
They are changing their sexual preference, right?
I don't think you can just choose to become.
Why don't you think men do it all the time?
No,
You've done it.
Dude. Because you can't take a straight guy and make him gay. In the same logic, you can't take a gay guy and make him straight.
That's bullshit. You're just making
double standard.
You're making stuff up. You have no substantiation for any of this. You're just repeating talking points.
No, dude, you're the evidence. You said that you don't think you could choose to be gay.
That's bro.
In the same token, I'm with you. I can't choose to be gay either.
You're not listening. You're not.
Gay guys can't choose to be straight.
No, you're not. You're not listening to me. Okay. What I'm saying is that could you envision a straight man making a choice that they wanted to be gay? They decided one day they wanted to do that based on social pressures.
Can I see a straight man choosing to be gay?
Yeah, based on social pressures.
No.
Okay, so if I showed you several men who are straight who said that the only reason they moved into that lifestyle was due to something like, oh, I don't know, let's say molestation or something like this, trauma-based things that happened when they were children, you wouldn't say that those massive environmental factors influenced their sexual preferences, Alex? Because that sounds to me to be completely absurd on its face.
No, I think those were gay guys who were just finding excuses to backwards rationalize their gay.
At 10, they were gay, and they were just backwards rationalizing their molestation.
You can be gay at any age, bro.
What? Yeah. So now children have sexuality too, Alex?
Yeah, I think you can be a gay.
At what age do they start their sexuality? At 9, 8, 7? What? When they're toddlers? When?
I think yeah. Like when you start getting sexual urges at that point, like a lot of gay people knew they were gay from a very young age.
Well, wait. When you start getting sexual urges, that's indicative of puberty. That's not any age.
First of all, that's not even true. A lot of people get sexual urges way before puberty.
What are they?
What do you mean? What are they?
Well, I don't understand. Why would you have sexual urges before you had the inclination to have sexual urges? Puberty is what brings that on.
No, that happens before puberty for a whole bunch of people. They start humping shit. Like, yeah, that can happen at any age.
So they're replicating behavior, right? Generally that they've seen.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that. I think like kids start getting all kinds of sexual urges. Even me, I can remember when I was like 8 or 9, I was like curious about porn and shit like that. So that can happen at any age.
I just want to be clear that you think that men who have come out and said that the reason that I'm a homosexual currently is due to sexual trauma that happened to me when I was a young man, and I'm trying to change that factor. You think that they were actually secretly homosexuals who are just in a backwards way trying to justify their molestation.
Well, I don't think molestation is ever warranted. So I'm not trying to like minimize the fact that they got molested. But yeah, I do think those people were, like I don't think the molestation made them gay. I think they were already gay. That would be my speculation.
Just to make sure that I got this right, and then I'll just move on from the point because there's no point in even hammering it home. You're just objectively wrong. But I would like you to reiterate so that I understand, and I'm not paraphrasing this, and I'm not taking you out of context. 9-year-old gets sexually molested by a male priest, let's say. Okay, he engages in homosexual acts. After that, okay, he comes out and he says the reason that I was engaged in so much of this is due to psychological trauma that's been well documented for the last 20 years. Your position is that he actually was always gay and that the trauma had nothing to do with it.
I think generally speaking, yes. I think that because there's a whole bunch of people who were molested who did not become gay.
That's a brutal bullet to bite, but I will say it's logically consistent.
Can I get a point across without being interrupted, please?
Sorry.
Okay, so I think there's a whole bunch of cases of people who got molested by priests or whoever who did not become gay. So I don't think there's any kind of evidence to support that being molested or having childhood trauma makes you gay. I don't think being gay is a choice. I think you're born gay or you're born straight. And I think that you kind of partially agree with me, because you're saying you personally can't choose to be gay, right? So how could a gay person your age choose to be straight? It just makes no sense.
Well, you're misinterpreting, one, what I'm saying, and two, you're actually strawmanning it. But I don't really even need to go further than that. If that's indeed your position, that it's just, there's just a correlatory, just so happened that they were born gay and were also molested by gay men, even though they themselves are saying that the psychological trauma led to it. I don't know what else to say. You're biting an unimaginable bullet from my perspective, but I'll just let you bite it. I'm not gonna.
Not really, dude. Like,
I'm not really gonna say anything to it.
The vast majority of people who are not like religious and biased believe that being gay is not a choice. So my position is not an uncommon position. It's actually a very common position.
Yeah, but your position within that hypothetical leads to a massive inconsistency, as you're going to find out as you examine that thought.
What is that inconsistency?
Well, because you're dismissing psychological trauma as having anything to do with sexual preference. And that's been proven wrong a million times. For instance, women who have promiscuous mothers are more likely to be promiscuous. There's so much evidence as to the environmental factors for sexual behaviors, absolutely stunning and unimaginable. And for you to say with a straight face that you think that sexual molestation has nothing to do with later in life sexual preferences is so fucking absurd. I can't even believe you said it.
Okay, I want to clarify that. I'm not saying that it has nothing to do with your sexual behavior. I think that. Oh, hang on. I can already tell you're getting antsy. Okay. I'm not saying that, for example, a woman who has like a promiscuous mother or maybe has like whatever creepy uncle might not engage in riskier sexual behavior. No, I think that's definitely true. I just don't think that you're going to take someone who is straight and make them gay because they got molested. Because there's plenty of people who got molested who did not become gay, right? Which leads you to think that there's probably something else going on. Because if that was the case, then every single man who got molested by a priest would be gay. But that's not the case. It's not even the majority of them, right? It's a small percentage.
Well, how many is it, Alex?
How many is it? I don't know the exact
data. Well, then why would you make the statement that it's a small minority? Like, you don't even know, bro. Like, how would you even know? 5 seconds ago, you had dismissed all environmental factors as having anything to do with sexual preference. Now that you had to bite a major bullet, you're saying, yes, there are environmental factors that do. And the whole thing is topsy-turvy. And I need to examine these positions, man. They're bad.
No, hang on. That's not true. That's not true. I said like 20 minutes ago that I think that theoretically it is possible to have one-off cases where the social pressure is the thing that pushes, I don't know, a kid who's like unsure about his sexuality to be gay. I acknowledged that earlier, 20 minutes ago. So I'm not dismissing all environmental factors. I'm just saying we're talking about averages and majority. I'm just saying the majority of straight people aren't going to be gay due to environmental factors, just like I think the majority of gay people aren't going to be straight due to environmental factors. Could you find an exception to this rule? Yeah, I'm sure you can. That doesn't make it true.
All right, I want you to be able to get a chance to respond here, but it's 10:10, which I know means Alex has got not much time left.
I want you to have your closing statement so we can get
absolutely
to the
what I was going to suggest. Yeah, absolutely.
Alex can get on to whatever he needs to get on to. And
can I just clarify one thing real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think in the audience, I see a lot of people speculating that like I got molested. I'm trying to come up with excuses. For the record, I've never been molested. I've never had any kind of trauma in my life. I had a really good childhood, so I'm arguing purely from intellectual place. There's no kind of personal vested interest at all.
Well, I don't endorse any of those comments, and I'm not. I never said anything.
No, you're good. You're good.
So, just to move into my closing statement, I'll give, of course, Alex the last word. As I've proven and demonstrated over and over tonight, Alex's ideology is completely inconsistent. He's bitten some of the worst logical bullets I could ever think of, including saying that he thinks things like early childhood molestation, and things like this don't affect long-term sexual preferences, which is just absurd. Not only is it unfounded scientifically, but it's actually unfounded logically. Of course, the things that you experience when you're young, otherwise things like spanking and things like this would have no effect whatsoever. And of course they do. All of these things breed environmental factors, which can lead to all kinds of different sexual preferences. He thinks that because I'm willing to concede that a 40-year-old man is very, very, very unlikely to go ahead and change their relationship with the opposite sex or the same sex when it comes to having sexual intercourse, that somehow that makes them consistent, but it does not. It's just pointing out more of these environmental factors, which we can see, we can actually graph them out. So it's just absurd on its face. When we got into pickup culture, he also, every argument he had led back to monogamy every single time. Almost every single time we could touch on any subject that led back to monogamy, his ideology makes no sense from my perspective. I understand what he's trying to do, and I gave him the two big ones, right? It's good that you're helping men with confidence. I think that they need that for reproductive purposes. And I also think that it's really good, to push young men in that direction. But that doesn't mean you push them into non-monogamous relationships. And anytime I brought up these different factors of massive risk that apply to the general population, he ended up conceding that his answer to all of these is a monogamous relationship. Everything from STDs to condom use to everything across the board. He even agrees with me about what's happening inside the marriage system. He agrees with me on almost everything. It's just that the prescription's different, and I feel like my logic's far more consistent, and it makes a lot more sense. I appreciate your time tonight, Alex. I appreciate you coming on The Crucible. I don't get a chance to have as many of these debates as I used to, so it's always fun for me to engage with somebody. So I appreciate that.
Cool. My turn?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. A few things. I think there's been a lot of straw man arguments made against my position. Let's start off because we discussed two things, and they're fairly separate. We discussed gayness, and we discussed relationships and hookup culture. So let's start off with the gayness thing. I've said multiple times I can foresee circumstances once in a blue moon where environmental factor plays a role. So I'm not completely saying that environmental factors play no role, right? No, of course not. The point I'm trying to make is that I think for the vast majority of straight guys, environmental factors aren't going to make them gay. In the same token, I would argue that for the vast majority of gay guys, environmental factors aren't going to make them straight. And if you take a gay guy and you say, "Hey, man, you're gonna be straight, marry this girl," that's a recipe for disaster. You know, we saw what happened in the governor of New Jersey, who was pretending to be straight, and then he was having sex with his aide. Right? You can't really suppress sexuality. That usually leads to very disastrous consequences. So that's my argument there. Going back to the hookup culture, the word push has been used a lot, but I don't push any kind of ideology on my audience. I don't really care. Now, saying that my solution to all these problems was monogamy, that's not true either. I'm not saying that, I wasn't saying that, oh, the solution is monogamy. I was saying that if you're a guy I was talking about a circumstance, if you're a guy who's really, really, really worried about STDs and to you, condoms are still too risky, then the next level of protection is monogamy. But most guys are pretty satisfied with using condoms as a risk management tool, me being one of them. I don't need to be in a monogamous relationship to feel very certain that, I'm not going to get an STD because I use condoms, and condoms are pretty fucking good, right? But I was saying that if you are still not happy with that small risk that is left, then you can take it one step further, be in a monogamous relationship, and get STD tested with your girl. I think that's also a reasonable tool. However, that certainly does not mean you need to get married, which is, I would argue, is a much bigger risk for men than everything Andrew was arguing, right? If my choice was to get, to get an STD with everything besides HIV or lose 50% of my assets, I think I would pick the former, right? Because, I do not want to fucking lose half of my money, half my assets. And this is something that happens all the time. And furthermore, I would say that what I see is a classic case of a man who, made a decision, which is fine, who is basically trying to get other people to make the same decision, which I'm not sure why. Like, I think people can have different situations, different decisions, and I don't think one is better than another. I don't think being married is better than being single. In the same token, I don't think single is being better than being married. I think different strokes for different folks, and different people have different things that work better for them. But pushing all men to get married is, I think, equally as dumb as pushing gay guys to be straight. Both are going to lead to disastrous consequences. But I do think that we should definitely do a part 2, because I think we can flesh out each one of these topics a lot longer. I think this could be a 3-hour debate on just one of these topics, because I think we really didn't get deep into it. So I think we should definitely do that. I will definitely
happy to, Alex. I don't mean to cut in on your closing, but I'm just saying happy to. The Crucible always reciprocates for people who come on our show. We, of course, will always honor that and go on other people's show as well.
Awesome. Yeah, let's definitely set it up. I think we can go a lot bigger, and we can even have Synth moderate if he's interested. I think Synth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's a great moderator, just like Zen is. I wouldn't be able to debate without my in-house debate team coming in and telling me to shut the fuck up, right? So, I'm sorry, Alex. Were you done with your closing? I'll let you finish whatever you need.
No, pretty much I was. I was just saying, yeah, I do think I appreciate you guys being fair with the moderation. You got a little fiery at times, but I think that's okay. I still respect Andrew, the way he runs this organization. So, yeah, even though this got a little contested, no hard feelings on my end.
Yeah, I think heated debates are a little bit fun. I know that I can be an aggressive debater. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, coming on the Crucible. Like I said, I don't get to debate nearly as often as I'd like to. It's always Synth, right? I'm always where he is, and he's always where I am, right? So NTP for 50 Canadian dollars. We appreciate that. It says Crucible, man, you sharp, on the thought, right on. We appreciate it. Now, normally we would have callers tonight, but we want to respect Alex's time. We're going to let him get on. I've got another super chat here I need to read. And then, of course, Alex, if you just have a few more minutes, we usually
I got
do the mod questions.
12 minutes and shit.
Okay. OG Snoop for $5 says for all, but boobs or synth. What makes the idea? What makes the idea woman for Alex? What makes the idea man to Andrew? Could these two figurative people connect?
Is he saying ideal?
Yeah. What's the ideal woman for Alex? What's the ideal man to me?
Well, you're straight, so I don't know how you would answer.
Well, you could still have an envisionment of what an ideal man would be, or a woman, right?
Okay, interesting. What's the ideal woman for me? A girl who's physically attractive. I tend to like Latina women. A woman who's loyal, smart, has a good sense of humor, good personality, sweet, loving, caring. I would say that.
And then what about the ideal man?
The ideal man for me, like as a friend, I guess. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I mean, whatever you would envision. So when I think of an ideal man, I think maybe a patriarch, head of his family, makes great choices. What would be an ideal man for a woman from your perspective, I think is what he's asking.
I think an ideal man is someone who contributes a lot to society. So like Elon Musk or something like that, who pushes innovation forward, the people who invented the cure to polio, stuff like that, who have major contributions to society. But I think Elon Musk is doing good things right now. So yeah, someone like that.
Okay. Well, to answer the question, the ideal woman for me really has one fine quality, the finest quality, and almost everything else is forgivable. She's a fine mother. If she's a fine mother, she's a great mother to your children. There's almost nothing else that you can't work around. Your progeny is your destiny. At the end of the day, you do need to reproduce, or else you personally will go extinct. And having a woman who's good to your children is almost always a guarantee that she's going to be good to you. As far as an ideal man is somebody that I envision who is willing to make massive self-sacrifice so that the mother of his children can be the best mother that she can possibly be. That's how I envision those two things, to answer that question.
We've got one from Zen Shapiro as well. Do we have or we haven't got the super chat?
Yeah, we've got a couple more we got to go through. Alex, can two men have sex?
Can they? Yeah, gay people have sex all the time.
Okay.
I don't know. How am I supposed to answer that?
His position is that he believes that that's just a form of masturbation, but it's not actual sexual intercourse.
I mean, I would say that if you have a dick up your ass, that's pretty close to sexual intercourse. So, yeah, I don't know.
It is interesting, though. He makes a good point about this that is a good thought experiment, which is that even the legalization under the law will distinguish, anal penetration from vaginal penetration as far as the nature of the sex crime. I thought that was a good point that he made.
What exactly is the point?
Well, his one of the points that he makes on why he thinks that it's possible that same sex is masturbation and not sex is because there is even a distinction in the law that covers sodomy different from vaginal penetration when it comes to things like sexual assault and this type of thing. Like even the law seems to distinguish between the two.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like, I mean, yeah, sure, the law might have, because I guess it's more painful for a girl to get fucked in the ass than the vagina typically. So maybe that's why the law punishes that more. But yeah, I don't think that that really has any bearing on whether it's a sex act or not. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if a penis is going inside a hole, that's pretty close to a sex act to me. Whether we want to call it something else, I mean, I think it just comes down to semantics.
Zen Shapiro for $5 says, Alex and his best partner versus me and BPF. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we could do it. I've been trying to set it up. Zen, can you send me an email or a message?
Yeah. Well, just so you know, Zen, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, but I do have Alex's phone number. If you're comfortable with that and calling, you're not going to have any problems on that front. So you can always he has asked me to relay that. I just haven't because I haven't, right? But he has asked me to. So if you want to do that, we can do that, brother, and we'll get it set up for a much longer. A synth moderated 3-hour team debate sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I know
Synth's been wanting to tangle inside the manosphere himself, you know?
Yeah.
Jack the Hat for £5. As an engineer, would you use machine components with a 50% failure rate? If not, why do you advocate coin flipping your entire future? I think that's kind of a dunk on me, right? He's saying with a 50% failure rate. But, you know, I broke these down a little further for you, Jack. It's not a 50% failure rate. Right. That's an average 50%. But when you start to break that down, you start to realize that religious women and women who have two intact parents and various other factors will show the reduction in divorce rate if you marry those types of women. So it's not really a 50% failure rate. It's almost always 100% failure rate on the man picking incorrectly. That's where I'm coming from on that. Did you want to respond to that, man?
I'm just looking it up. What percentage of Christian couples get divorced? If you are an evangelical Christian adult who has been married, there's a 26% likelihood you've been divorced compared to a 28% chance for Catholics and a 38% chance for non-Christians. So it seems that it's about a 10% reduction.
Well, that's just one factor. But there's other factors, too, that come along with Christianity you're not taking into account, like just having two parents in the household that raise you also reduce divorce rates. So you start to compound those factors and you can start to really make a good case for the type of woman that you should go after to marry.
Yeah,
but even then, 10% reduction, just that is huge. Now it's a 40% coin flip, right?
For me, that would personally be way too much risk. A 40% chance I could lose half my assets.
What is it? 10%?
Even 10% would probably be too much. I'm not risk averse, but that would be too much risk even for me.
All right, are we done with the super chat questions?
Yeah, I don't see any more synth. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. Zen Shapiro asks the Crucible for Alex. If we have no observed gay gene, how do you, as a naturalistic materialist, justify believing it exists? Don't you only believe in things that have been observed, Alex?
Well, first of all, I don't know what a naturalistic. What did he say?
He's a naturalistic materialist. He's just saying that you believe that everything that exists is made of matter or energy. It's physical stuff.
Yeah, well, just because we haven't found something yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We haven't found the cure for cancer yet doesn't mean the cure for cancer doesn't exist. So, yeah, I would say that we're still have a lot of ways to go when it comes to science and research, and especially when it comes to gene study. We've only sequenced the human genome fairly recently. So, yeah, I think just because it has been found yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
All right, so I've got some moderated questions for both of you. One is directed towards both of you at about the 1 hour and 7 minute mark. I remember the debates right here on the Crucible I've had with J.F. Gary Epi. One of the few things that both of us could agree on was that nature versus nurture was a false dichotomy. For example, if you had squirrel genes, you'd be collecting nuts, right? So isn't every behavior just genes manifesting an environment with no exceptions? That's first for Andrew, then Alex. I want to hear your answer afterwards.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that there's a genetic predisposition towards homosexuality. It could still be 100% environmental with no genetic inclination. even if you have genes that are manifesting that normally would never manifest without those environmental pressures. So it's possible that everybody would have a predilection towards that if the environmental factors were such that they could not escape it.
All right, and the same questions for you, Alex. Do you think that throws a wrench into the works of discussing whether or not it's genes or environment, if every single behavior is genes manifesting environment?
Genes manifesting environment means like your genes are influenced by the environment in how they play out. Is that correct?
That's one way you can say it, yeah. For like the example that usually JF uses, right? The neuroscientist, he says that if you had squirrel genes, you'd be collecting nuts. So if you had the genes for, if you were to have the genes for Down syndrome, for example, you lose a lot of your intelligence. If you had no genes for creating a brain in your head, you'd have no brain in your head, right? So every single behavior, no matter what, requires genes and requires environment.
Yeah,
so
I mean, yeah, the nature versus nurture debate is like something that's highly contested in the scientific community. There's some like pretty interesting science that basically says that largely like things like your intelligence and your success is all predetermined at birth, right, by your genes. And then there's others, prominent scientists, who argue that nurture plays a much bigger role. Obviously, it's a combination of both, but the question is it like 90-10, 50-50? I'm not a researcher. I don't have the answer to that. I would speculate. My speculation is that when it comes to things like being gay, I would say that's something you're born with. I don't think a straight guy can become gay and vice versa. Could there be exceptions to that due to extreme pressure, due to environment? Yeah, I can concede that. I can see that happening. I just don't think that happens the majority of the time.
Okay, so at about the 37-minute mark, there was a Andrew, you made this point about religious women divorce less, right? And it seems like afterwards, in the post-debate Q&A, you talked about that again when I think it was Jack the Hat in the chat brought it up, right? So what the chance was about what that you'd have a divorce if you were Christian, Andrew?
I'm sorry, just the last part. The chance was what?
Yeah, I'm asking you, what was the chance about, Andrew? Like, what was the approximate chance of you having a divorce if you were married or Christian?
He actually just brought that stat up, so in a way I'm cheating with the question, but according to his stat anyway, it's about a 10% reduction. I didn't actually give a percentage. I just said it was reduced.
It was reduced. If it's about a 10% reduction, it's about 30% of the population, right, who's Christian will get divorced. Is that correct?
I don't think the population is 30% Christian. I think it's far more than that.
Oh, sorry.
Even by self-identification.
What I was asking was, of people who are married, the ones who are Christians will get divorced at a rate of 30%. Is that correct?
No, I think that it's a stark reduction even from that, depending on the factors that are involved. So it's complex.
What would your estimate?
Well, I don't know. I would have to actually, but I think you could actually mathematically run that for a percentile based on various factors in order to find that answer out. Not just religion, but if you're in a two-parent household, if they're wealthier versus poorer, there's all types of factors that I think that you can apply to this to come up with a way to mitigate risk substantially. But what I can say is that if you're non-religious, if you're a non-religious woman who comes from a broken home and you get married to a guy, the chances are drastically higher. Or if you're college educated and a woman, the chances are drastically higher as well when you take a lot of those factors out.
So would you say that it's probably at least upwards of 1 in 20? Do you think 1 in 20 is a fair number we can use just for a thought experiment?
I don't know, but I think just for the purpose of this, we'll just yield it. Sure. Whatever statistics you're going to give me, I'll have to look at later, but sure, let's just go through it.
It's completely fair. I'm not going to give you any statistics. Just the thought experiment is, do you think from Alex's perspective, do you think it would be a smart idea if he were to walk into a casino and take a 1 in 20 chance of losing half of all of the money he's ever made? If all winning does is make him immune to STDs.
Yeah. So in that particular case, well, still, yes, I still think that 1 in 20 of losing half for no STDs is worth it. But even that aside, I don't believe it would be anywhere near that high. But let's just grant for a second that it was. Is a 1 in 20 chance to have your happiness greatly increased, having your children's happiness greatly increased, and having the threshold for your money making be greatly increased? Is that worth a 1 in 20 gamble? Because I think what happens with most men is that they will spend their health for wealth, and then they spend all of their wealth trying to get their health back, to quote Dave Ramsey, right? I think men will make gambles on this that have a far less than 1 in 20 chance for way less reward than what you get from marriage.
That seems like a fair answer. Alex, at 23 minutes in, you say that HIV is significant, but these other STDs you say aren't. It seems like your argument should apply to HIV as well, because people with HIV have the same life expectancy as people without now. Do you think that it's not that big of a deal, to use your words, to get HIV, or do you think it's still a big deal?
No, I think HIV is still a big deal. You have to basically take medication for the rest of your life. You are legally obligated to tell all your future partners that you have HIV, which will be basically sexual suicide. Yeah, so and it makes you still, even though they have really good medication for it now, it's like insanely expensive. So yeah, no, I think HIV is definitely a big deal. But HIV also, like, I hate like fear mongering and stuff like that. HIV is predominantly found in certain populations, particularly in the gay community, IV drug users, and prostitutes. So if you just avoid having anal sex, you avoid fucking prostitutes, and you avoid doing IV drugs, your chances of getting HIV are like close to zero.
All right, those are all the questions I have. Based Gossiper, Andrew brought it up on screen. Synth is my favorite leftist. I appreciate it. I've got no more questions for you. I think this is a good ending point. I don't think we have any more audience questions.
We just got to jump in real quick. You can find Alex real quick. You can find Alex one more time at Playing with Fire. That's his YouTube channel. Even if you absolutely hate his positions, he does have interesting content. And even if all it does is give you insight into people you disagree with, it's worth going and subbing to check it out. And of course, Synth, you can find on Synth's channel. He runs his own debates over there from time to time. You can find him there. I put his link down below. You'll find it down below. Make sure you click on that. Give him a subscribe. And make sure that you send in those super chats, guys, because he does get a cut of those. And going forward, that's probably even going to increase more. So we appreciate it, everybody. And Alex especially. Have a great night.
Cool. Let me just say one last thing.
Sure.
I'll just answer. Rachel is asking, someone send a super chat and ask Alex if the gay lisp is genetic. You don't have to send me a super chat. I'll answer your question. I would say yes. I do think it is genetic.
No.
I don't think like you can like choose to talk in a gay guy voice. Like, you know what? I'm gonna change my voice and I'm gonna talk like this and be all feminine and shit.
Alex, dude, come on. What is the prerequisite to lisping except as a virtue signal or some type of signal that you engage in this activity? You could make no genetic argument for the amount of men who lisp versus the genes that would be required for them to have that list. That's just absurd.
Can you talk in a gay guy voice moving forward?
Could I do it?
Yeah, forever.
Well, to be fair, Andrew, we did just hear Alex's impression of a gay lisp, and Alex did to some degree prove his point by doing the worst gay impression I've ever heard. Andrew,
that's true.
Andrew, we got to hear yours too. Come on.
Okay. So the gay impression is, instead of cheeseburger, it's chithburger. Okay, it's a chithburger. That's my gay impression.
Oh damn, dude, that was actually pretty good.
Do you want chithburger?
that was a pretty good. That was a pretty good impression. You're kind of disproving my point right now.
Well, I mean, when you ask these questions of like, yeah, anybody can do these things, right? It's just, the question is, does it make any sense? And I just think that's kind of absurd. I'll give you the last word though, Alex, before I play the outro. Go ahead.